So, service time again. This service, I will be changing the internal transmission filter. Here's my transmission fluid. I only use the Deck 6 from AC Delco in it because that's all it's ever had in it. And we're also going to do, I try to do it every 100,000 miles. Mainly just because I like looking at the fluid and as it comes out and seeing what the magnet looks like in the bottom of the pan. The transfer case, I try to do both of them at the same time. They both take the same fluid. Here's a fluid chart for the 2018 Chevy Silverado I picked up from the dealer the last time I was there. I'll just leave this right here, screenshot if it'll help. So yesterday I did the oil change, fuel filter, and all that stuff. All I have left to do today is rotate the tires and do the, I've already done the spin-on filter, the red filter right here. Now we got to take the pan off and we're going to put the internal filter in. There is a magnet in there that I like to look at just to see for myself what's going on inside of my transmission. Now, I think it's recommended every 100,000 miles, but I like to do it every 100,000. But I dropped the ball and it's been 170,000 miles. So kind of curious to see what comes out of both of these. The transfer case is located right behind the transmission, bolts directly to the transmission, and your front drive shaft comes out of there going to the front differential. And then you see the drive shaft right here going to the back end. It slides right into the back of the transfer case. So what we're going to do is drain the fluid out of the transfer case first. So this is your drain plug. Both are 18 millimeters. I have went ahead and broken them loose. So we'll go ahead and pull this one first. And right here is the fill plug. And they're not in very ideal places, but you know, they are what they are. So I'm gonna get this one. I've broken it loose, but I haven't taken it, brought it out very far yet. So we're gonna go ahead and take this out. A bunch of trash falling out of there. I think I can get it by hand now. Go ahead and get the drain pan underneath it. Should be good right there. And go ahead and alright, now I wound up getting this thing. This is a forma funnel. I was seeing them everywhere on Amazon, Facebook, places, and I just decided, heck with it, I'm gonna try to get one, because if you guys have an L5P Duramax, you know how hard it is to change oil without getting stuff everywhere. I've had people recommend everything from using aluminum foil to cutting a piece of sheet metal and everything, but this being plastic, it just wipes right off, and I don't have to throw anything away or anything like that. So I'm going to try to hold this right here if I can. That way the oil doesn't go everywhere. It's got to go straight down. I was hoping that would hook right up on top of there, but I don't think it's going to. Oh, that stuff is black. Black. Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. I decided to go ahead and change it today. And you said a little foam filter kept the fluid from going all over my cross member there. And these are the magnets I'm talking about I like to look at, and that thing looks like a freaking porcupine. So not real happy about that. I'll set that right on the edge of the drain pan though. And yeah, that stuff, that is, to the best of my understanding and knowledge, that's Deck 6 transmission fluid, and it is jet black. Yeah, so now as far as the drain plug, I want to show you guys when I wipe this off. You see all that, those are metal shavings. That's the magnet. That's more like what it's supposed to look like. But nearly 400,000 miles on the truck, and this has only been changed once. I changed it at 200,000. So I meant to do it at 100,000. I forgot. I didn't even think about it. So there's that. I may spray this off with a shot of brake parts cleaner, just because it would make me feel better if it was sprayed off, but I may not. I don't know. See what I can get off of it with a paper towel here. Alright, now this is why I like the formal funnel. Like I say, it's nothing special. It may be, I mean, you know, it is what it is. There's 100 different ways to do this, and you don't have to go off and buy one of these, but I like it. Wipe it off and it's clean. I can lay it back outside of the truck on my step now. And I'm just gonna let this drip for a minute. I don't have a pump, so you guys know that I'm gonna do my best to work smarter, not harder. What I've done is taken the cap to the transmission fluid. It's a gallon jug there. I should only need 2 quarts, I think. So anyway, I've had some old fuel line laying around. I wiped it down and cleaned it up. I'm gonna drop this right in here like so. And then I'll take my air hose and blow into the other side and watch it go. Watch it run right in there. Hopefully that line is not too big to go in the hole, but we'll see. Okay, while that's draining, finishing up a little bit, we'll go ahead and pull the top plug out and give it as much time to get all that crap out of there as possibly can. And there's your fill plug. Either no magnet or really clean magnet. No magnet. So let's see if our contraption here is going to reach. So close. I believe it's going to work. I just have to let's see. Okay, so if you guys can see this, that is the hose going into the transfer case. So now we'll go ahead and stick the drain plug back in. And I'm just going to put it in. I'm not going to go ahead and torque it at this time. I'm going to go ahead and fill it up, and then I'll torque it. So let's see. I'm going to put you guys on widescreen. And it's going to be hard for you guys to see everything, but I'll get it as good as I can. So theoretically, if I can get this to fire straight down into the hole on top of this and just barely squeeze a little air pressure into it, you don't want to do much. Theoretically, it'll fill that joker up. It should be going. And I'm just barely holding very little pressure on it. I wished I would have had some clear tube. My smart flashlight is picking up this daylight outside, and it doesn't understand why it needs to be on. It keeps cutting off after a few minutes. Whoop, right there. You guys see it just barely trickle out. That is where I'm going to put it. And I'll pull the hose back out, and hopefully we won't lose much. But it doesn't need to be pouring back out of that. Just, if you could stick your finger in, it should just barely be at the bottom of that line, at the threads. That's the best of my understanding anyway. That's how I did it last time. So now we can put our drain plug back in. Trying to get this where it's not going to leak everywhere. There. No mess. I like that. Little brake parts cleaner. Kind of hit it and knock anything off, any extra oil off. I'm just gonna snug it up. I believe that's more than plenty. I'm gonna do the fill plug the same way. To the best of my understanding, that's all there is to changing the oil in your transfer case behind your Allison 1000 in a 2018 Chevy Silverado. Now we'll move on to the internal transmission filter. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the transmission fluid draining, and it is a 15mm on the drain plug. And that's one thing I'm really glad that they did for us on the pan, is put the drain plug, because in my earlier days the 350 turbos and the 400 turbos and all that did not have drain plugs. So go ahead and get this draining, and I'm going to start taking the pan bolts, getting them loose. I usually leave 4 corner bolts in and take the rest out while the fluid's draining. That's just going to take forever. We'll do it like this. Well, actually, we'll do it like this. Got the head of my ratchet all oiled up. That fluid looks really good to have 170,000 miles on it. Nice and pretty and red. Like I say, I do have an issue with the torque converter grinding whenever it locks in, but it's been doing that since 200,000 miles, and it's got nearly 370,000 on it now. Not concerned about it anymore. It doesn't make me feel the least bit insecure about the transmission giving any issues. So the transmission pan bolts are 13mm, and we'll go ahead and start loosening those. Alright, now there's only 2 bolts left holding the pan in, so I am going to run and grab the new filter and give this a few seconds to drain, and I'm loving how clean that fluid looks from here. I can't wait to see the magnet on the inside of the pan. So I'm not patient enough to wait for the rest of this to come out. I'm just going to put the drain plug right back in. I'm not going to torque it or tighten it. I'm just going to put it there. And when I torque these, then I'll torque this. So always make sure you get a good clean place to lay your bolts, or you'll wind up losing one and wish you hadn't them. And going to take this one over here out first. Almost got it. Oh, dang. All right. Let's let this bad boy down and see what things look like. Another thing I am thankful for them doing on this one is giving us a reusable pan gasket. This is going to be I think the third time that this gasket has been used, and it's still no leaks, holding up great. Alright, so hoping you guys can see this. What I'm doing here, just grab the filter, wiggle it and pull, and then get some more fluid out. There's a rubber O-ring that goes on right here, and it did not come out with it, so we now have to fish that out. But that's the most of it right there. There's the rubber O-ring. So we'll slide this right back down on top of here. Just to give you a point of reference, if you've never done this before, that's where your O-ring goes. Right here is the new filter. And you see it looks the same as the other one did when it came down. I only use genuine GM filters. Or Allison if I can get them. You know, hence Allison right here. But I'm going to put a little bit of fluid on this. And me personally, I think I'll be fine to go ahead and slip that right back up in there. It's not going to fall off. Alright, so moving on back to the tailgate workbench, whatever you want to call it. This magnet right here, this is why I pull this off. And usually you take and rub your finger across it. I mean, you say it's fairly clean. But if you guys can see this, I am extremely happy with the amount of metal that is not on there. I've seen them before where you run your finger across it and it's like plowing through mud. So that makes me feel so much better to see that. So now all we gotta do is clean this up, get the rest of the fluid out, and put everything back like we found it. So here is the gasket, and the reason I say it's reusable, it has metal like crush sleeves in here that when you torque it down, it keeps it from over torquing. And this is, I think if I remember correctly, it's going to be the 4th time I've reused this gasket. And I don't put any brake parts cleaner around the rubber, don't want it breaking that down. I just wipe it off is all I've ever done to it. From where we dropped it off, it'll get saturated with transmission fluid, and I just wipe it down really good and then lay it back out on the pan and get ready to start putting things back together. This doesn't take this long, and it shouldn't be that intimidating. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Or that's there, and that's clean enough. So I'll see you guys back under the truck. Find one bolt on either side of the pan, whether it's this side or this side, doesn't matter, and get 2 bolts started. Once you get the 2 bolts started, then if you have one of Milwaukee Ratchet, it's going to make it a whole lot nicer. Just go around starting your bolts. Don't tighten any of them down, just start them. I catch a lot of slack for that right there, what I just did. Getting the bolt in there, and this right here, people say you're going to cross thread it. You're going to strip it. Don't cross thread. But this thing does not have enough torque to do a whole lot of damage, and although I admit it's not a good practice, it's still the way I do it. Alright guys, so it's kind of hard for me to reach because I do have the truck jacked up so I can rotate the tires later and to give me a little bit more room under the truck. So we know it's empty. And call me lazy or whatever you want. I don't have a funnel. So we're just going to do this right here. And see how that works for us. I say very, very little amounts of air. It doesn't take much. And whenever you do put a little air in it, the jug will swell up. When the jug swells up, that means that it's taking time to push it through. So don't overdo it. And I can see the fluid level changing. Right here on the clear stripe on the back, I can see the fluid is going down in the jug. And the new fluid is so clean and so clear until it's driven and gets mixed up with all the other fluid, it's hard to tell the level. Try this. Fluid off, of course, and then we'll start it back up if I can see where it's at on the stick. Which it was on the stick a while ago when the truck wasn't running. Oh yeah. That's way over the full mark. So let's start it up and check it again. So if it's your first time here, you probably picked up, I'm no ASC certified mechanic. I'm just a guy that tries to do a lot of my own service work to, you know, so I know what's going on with my truck. And I think everybody ought to do that. Just keep in mind, check the torque specs in your manual. You know, make sure you get everything for your truck. I don't want to take any responsibility for somebody over tightening or over torquing or anything, overfilling or anything like that. Keep in mind that transmission fluid, when you first pour it in, it is super clear. That's why I didn't try to show it to you guys on the camera, because it wouldn't pick it up. I can barely pick it up. The truck does need to be running, preferably. I've always wanted them running in drive when I check the transmission fluid after I do a filter change or something like that. I've heard a lot of different things about changing the internal filter. I've heard just do the spin on. If you ever do an overhaul, they'll change the internal at that point. I have heard, you know, do them every 100,000 miles. I think I read somewhere 75 to 100,000 miles on maintenance. So I've been doing this one. I did it 100. I did it 210. I think, if I remember correctly, right around 210. And I was going to do it again at 300, and I missed it. Now it's got 377 something on it, and I wanted to go ahead and get it done. And I try to do the transfer case the same time I do the transmission filter, the internal filter. But the last couple, I missed it at 100,000. I just forgot about it. At 200,000, I did it, and I did it today. So that's what I do. And this video is more so just to show, if you've got one of these trucks and you've never seen what the inside of the transmission pan looks like, and you're one of my subscribers, thank you. But if you're somebody that watches my videos that's got one of these trucks and was curious about how hard it was to do, there it is. So another thing I was going to say, the foam funnel, I like this thing. I don't remember how much it was. I'll link to it on Amazon, but I like being able to drain oil down it and get it completely covered black in oil. Take a rag, wipe it off, maybe shoot it off with some brake parts cleaner and throw it back in a toolbox. And there's multiple different ways to do that. You can use aluminum foil, you can use sheet metal. I've had a lot of suggestions, but I don't throw this away. And even if I feel like with sheet metal, if you bend it, it would stay bent, you know. But this, I mean, you can bend it however you want, it just folds right back out. And then I throw it in my toolbox. It gets stuff dropped on it, it gets stuff banged on it. I've had it for about 3 or 4 months now. I like it. I want to order the big one. They've got a bigger one, and they've also got a smaller one I would like to. Now I will tell you this, if you've seen the advertisements for these things and they show where you can roll them sideways and use them as a funnel, in an emergency situation you may be able to do that. But me personally, that's not something I'm going to try to do with it, because it just doesn't, for that, it's too clumpy for that. So for me. But as far as for the oil changes, as far as like you guys saw how I use it to keep the oil from getting on the cross member, wipe right off, stick it up underneath the oil filter, it drains right down into the pan, wipe it right off and throw it right back into the box. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And it wasn't a how-to video, it was just showing how I do, you know, how I do the internal filter change. So like, share, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.